Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of Talkin Hockey. This is an Inside Sports production. Let's first go ahead and thank our sponsor, thepuckshopshere.com. Discount hockey gear available online, and you get an additional 10% discount when you use the promo code Inside Sports upon checkout, and of course, free shipping on all orders over $75. I'm Charles E. Smith Jr., and as I said, this is Talkin Hockey. We're down to conference championships, the conference finals. The Stanley Cup, it's going to be awarded very shortly, down to the final four teams playing. But I cannot break this all down by myself. I got to have a little bit of help. So, from somewhere in the depths of Eastern Canada, from hockey54.com, and hey, a lot of you follow him on Twitter at @theschwartz54. Lonnie Schwartz, here he comes, folks, with some of the most incredible and brilliant, eloquent analysis you will ever hear anywhere. Lonnie, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We got a barbecue yesterday, and as I was telling you off the air, I've been living in a basement apartment with no barbecue for years now. Goodness gracious, how nice is it to have one of those things? I know that people in L.A. might take that for granted because it's beautiful all the time, but having a barbecue is a revelation. Especially when your wife is a vegetarian, and very seldom do you get to make yourself a steak, which was delicious last night.
And you know what? See, and not
Nothing
many of
hockey
us
related there.
Yeah, not many of us could actually barbecue in a basement and live to tell the story. But that just shows that Lonnie is kind of superhuman in that he could actually do that.
It's a safe room. It's a safe room here in the hockey bunker. That's what it's all about. Yeah, you got to have one of those safe rooms, right?
Yeah. I watched Panic Room with Jodie Foster, so I know exactly what you're talking about. That's the only thing she needed was a barbecue grill in there, man.
I got a George Foreman grill. I'm just going to stick around in here for a little while. That's all. Let's weather the storm. They're not getting in here.
All right. Well, let's get down to it, because there are some actual hockey fans who tuned in to actually listen to us talk about hockey as opposed to New York steaks. So, shall we go with?
Hey, lots of sizzle in New York.
Let's start in the West, though. I know New York steaks would normally be a segue to the New York Rangers, but we're going to flip the script here and start in the West. The L.A. Kings continuing this improbable run. Well, a lot of people didn't see it coming, but when you look at the team, it's not all smoke and mirrors. What you got is L.A. outplaying teams from the first round, the way they outplayed Vancouver, which was the closest of the series, even though it only went 5. The way they went through St. Louis, up now 3-0 on Phoenix. Lonnie, what do you see out there, man?
I see a tremendous hockey team, and I think I can go back to our very first playoff preview. And you know how I said the San Jose Sharks might be like the St. Louis Cardinals? Right. Just squeaking into the playoffs and then coming in and winning a World Series. Maybe I should have just gone a little bit further along the coast to the L.A. area, because they're pulling a Cardinals right now. Yeah, unbelievable.
Well, when you look at
I think the whole hockey world is stunned.
And when you look at the team, what I like about the team is when you look at it and you really take a good hard look, because you see this run and that brings them to the forefront. But looking up and down the roster, look at the age of the team and their core players, you could see them really being in that mix now for the next 5 years or so. No?
Well, why wouldn't you? And I think this goes back to a little chat I had with a buddy of mine here in Toronto about Anze Kopitar. We were talking about this off the air before we just got on, and you and I, that is, about Anze. And here's a guy they were trying to build the team around, so much promise, potent offensive weapon, and yet for years it seemed like they couldn't find the right pieces of the puzzle. It was like, how you're doing that puzzle and you're trying to jam a piece in that looks like it's supposed to fit, it should fit, but it doesn't fit. Even if you compare it to the picture on the cover, it looks like it belongs there.
Yeah, that's Jack Johnson.
And L.A. was trying to do that.
That's Jack Johnson.
Exactly. But it wasn't. It wasn't fitting in.
Right.
But Anze has just, been a trooper through it all. He's been a good leader. He's been a good company man, if you will. And now it's paying off at the right time. And you've got Dustin Brown, who, I'm not going to beat that horse because it's dead. It's at the Elmer's Glue Factory in process right now. Yes, he was probably going to get traded, but the right deal didn't come through. But now he's your headliner for the Conn Smythe. And to me, Anže is a close second, followed by a close third. I'm talking by like fractions of a hair is Jonathan Quick. And you've got a great core that you need. Plus, you've got a good defense. Like, you can't make enough about 3 core guys on the defense right there, and that's Doughty, Mitchell, and I would go so far as to say Scuderi is showing his Pittsburgh Penguins colors, which is what got him to L.A. on such a high price ticket.
Exactly.
Right? Everybody made a big deal about that 2 years ago. Oh, Scuderi, why are you signing him for all this money? And then when he didn't look like he was excelling during the regular season for the last couple of years, people were like, waste.
Well,
now look at him.
I think they knew what they were getting, and some guys you get because of, their hockey playing skills and those intangibles. So it's not necessarily things that always show up on the score sheet, but guys who are just there in the right place at the right time. And as we were again talking about, which I said about Mike Richards, is when Mike Richards is on the ice, and you could say the same things about a guy like Scuderi, they will upset the timing of the other team's plays because they know where the play is going. They know how to read the passing lanes and see the ice in layers. So guys like that, they're out there and they're just disruptive. So the other team may move the puck out of their zone. They just can't move it as quickly or efficiently as they want to, and that's really what it's all about.
And that's why Mike Richards, and I'm glad you brought him up too, because Mike Richards was up for the Selke not too long ago. Great two-way forward. I don't think he gets the same recognition as, say, a Datsuk because he's not nearly as offensively dazzling as Pavel is, but then again, who is? But what Richards brings to the table is there's a leadership quality to him, right? You can say what you will about his time in Philadelphia. There's a reason why he got the C on that sweater because, he goes out there and during the penalty kill, he's a threat. Not only does he disrupt, but a couple of years ago, he had something like 8 shorthanded goals during the year. 8.
Exactly.
Like some teams don't even get 8 as a team. and that's the quality that Richards brings. And then you bring in Carter towards the trade deadline, on the trade deadline, and Carter comes in and he's buddy with Richards, so he feels a little more at ease and settled down. And not as much pressure on him to be that offensive, I was going to say contribution, because, and I just said, man, I think that breaks a streak of like 5 episodes we've done without me saying that. Wow, I'm disappointed in myself.
Nobody would have known had you not brought it up, though.
I'm hard on myself for that 2-letter word. I hate that 2-letter word. I don't like being lazy when it comes to talking about.
I think it's a
hockey.
3-letter word. I believe there's 2 M's on there.
Oh. Okay, that's how unfamiliar I am with it. Yeah. And so I bring in Carter in the conversation because the pressure's off of him. When he was brought into Columbus, there was tons of pressure on him. He comes into LA and he's performing well. It's not as if, he's setting the world on fire, but he's scoring some timely goals, as are guys like Nolan and Dwight King. Who's Dwight King?
Hey, he's outscored the Phoenix team by himself in this series, just to let you know. He's got 4 goals. He's got 2 game winners against Phoenix, and Phoenix has 3 goals total in the series.
Yeah, beauty snipe.
Yeah.
Beauty snipe that beat Smith for the game winner the other night. And the kid's performing at the right time. They bring in some of the rookies and some of the young guys, and they're contributing. It's front to back. This lineup is scary, and Phoenix... Yeah. Because we haven't talked about Phoenix, they just have nothing to counter. Mike Smith can't score goals. Sorry, kids.
Well, I think here's the thing with Phoenix, and I talked about them just in social media world about them kind of throwing in the towel. When you look at it, they had 25 block shots in the first game, which they lost, and since then they had 9, and then they had 12, and that was the whole thing. Which kind of scared me about Phoenix was their whole shot blocking ability, but that has been non-existent really since game 1. The Kings have systematically just broken them down.
Well, I think from what I've seen from LA is that they're taking that strength away. because I'm not seeing gratuitous amounts of point shots. This is we're going back to the Nashville series when Nashville was playing Detroit, and when Nashville fell to Phoenix, the weapon was bring it back to Weber, bring it back to Suter, bring it back to Weber, bring it back, and then you have plays where LA is generating a lot of offense while Kopitar drives hard to the net, scores some beauty breakaway goal on Smith, who had no chance, and that was the game-tying goal in Game 3. You've got a lot of offense being generated down low. What does that take away? It takes away the shot block.
Exactly.
King's goal that won the game was one of those where you see in practice, okay, when you're playing peewee hockey, when you're playing midget hockey, when you're playing tyke hockey or whatever the lowest level of hockey is in terms of age group, you see that drill where you see kids coming around the circle, driving to the face-off dot, and then shooting and scoring goals because that's prime time. That's where like 70% of goals in the NHL are scored within that face-off dot. So what does King do? Wheels around, comes in at the dot, bar down, and there you go. Your game winner.
Right.
You take away a weapon that is a shot block by generating offense in those key areas. That's what's going to win you hockey games against a team like Phoenix. And I think that 3 goose statistic right now in the series sort of tells that tale, does it not?
It does. And, that's one of the things, as we talked about when we broke this down initially, was, the Kings had to stay patient. And that's what they've done, is when you got a team like that, they can, like Phoenix, they can frustrate you. If your thing was getting the puck back to the point, getting shots through, and you keep working on that very thing, and they take it away, what that leads to is frustration. Whereas the Kings, they just went to the next level. Okay, you take this away, here's how we're going to play. That's where that's where, the diligence comes in. That's where coaching comes in, and that's where dedication from the players comes in. And the one guy I was really kind of worried about, because I've seen him get impatient, is Drew Doughty. And, of course, he's one of the key members on the blue line. But, Drew has played great in this series, and I like the way that he has stayed patient. And, you take what the other team gives you and work within the framework of the game and not trying to force things.
And that's what Drew Doughty has done. You just said it all right there. Drew Doughty showed great patience and has scored some nice goals from the point because of that patience.
Right, exactly.
Right? He sees the opportunity, and he sees that it's that little hesitation, I think, that you get sometimes where it ruins the play from the point. You wait, you wind up, and then you slap down, and then you wind up and then follow through. Well, that's when the shot blocker gets in position.
Right.
Is that hesitation. That puck comes down to the point, drag along the blue line a little bit, fire it on the net.
Exactly.
That's when you get that opportunity.
And the other thing is it takes motion from the team also. So when that shot blocker goes down, yeah, you can curl and drag a little bit around him, but your forwards have to be moving too to give you a chance to get a shot on goal or open up a passing lane. You got one guy down, you got, a very short window there where it's basically 5-on-4 until he gets back up, just for that split second. But if you use that time, you can get them out of position.
And that's what Jason Spezza, I'm not trying to transition to New York just yet, because that's something that Jason Spezza was saying, because New York's big deal is also their shot blocking. And the very first series, when Ottawa was going up against the Rangers, Spezza was saying that's exactly it. When they dive, you get them out of position, you try and take advantage of it. Now, unfortunately, as we all well know at this point, Ottawa wasn't able to do that. But that's what LA is doing from the point, and especially Drew Doughty. So it's a really solid thing. And there is one other thing you brought up in pre-production that I wanted to kind of touch on for fans to understand is that you're going to hear a lot of commentators, especially the ex-goaltenders, talking about bad rebounds. And you were pointing out how Mike Richards is doing an exceptional job of putting pucks on the off pad. Okay, so let's say Richards is coming down the right wing, okay, and he puts the shot off the opposite pad of the goaltender, because the goalie's going to try and make that stop no matter what. You're not just going to say, well, I got to let it float through. It's a shot on net. You got to make that save. But unfortunately, the angle that the goaltender is on, more often than not, that's going to ring off the pad. And because they're so square to the puck, because they're so square to that shot, it's almost impossible to angle that rebound into the safe zone, which is in the corner or towards the hash marks on the opposite face-off dot.
Right.
Right? So you're generating a rebound that you know is going to go to the front of the net. And when you have players drive the front of the net effectively to collect those rebounds, and you pointed out a play specifically where Dwight King scored a goal because Richards put a puck off the opposite pad towards the front of the net was where the rebound ended up, goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a design play.
Yep, absolutely.
It's a design play because coaches fully understand that that's going to be a rebound that the goaltender is forced to give up by design. And I don't think a lot of people give enough credence to that play because it's a valuable tool. You're using the goaltender's strength, saving the puck against them because it's so hard to make that instant transition when you have a guy driving the net so quickly. But Smith has been good at it. I got to give Smith credit. His lateral movement has been outstanding. He's the reason these games are relatively low scoring.
Right.
But then again, we had a 4-0 goose the other night too.
Well, and just think about it when you look at just shots on goal. The Kings have outshot them 116-70 so far in the series. So,
incredible.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and let's get into the East here. We got some East Coast fans out there, all about King Henry or Hank or what's the other one?
Henrik. His real name.
Henrik. Yes. Lundqvist. The Rangers playing the Devils, and so far, the Rangers, they have a 3-2 loss sandwiched in between two 3-0 shutouts, so they've got a little bit of a lead here on the Devils, 2-1, and a brilliant game by Lundqvist yesterday. So, what do you see out there?
Is this not the series we were expecting it to be?
Absolutely.
You think this was going to be a cakewalk for either team because both are playing great hockey. DeBoer yesterday during his press conference said, we played a great hockey game and we still lost. They lost because Henrik Lundqvist was in that zone. They asked, I think it was Girardi they were asking. No, they asked Stahl. They asked Mark Stahl, about Lundqvist in the dressing room. He was like, he was just in that zone. He came out on the ice, and as soon as he got out on the ice, the way he was moving, the first save he made, sometimes you just know that a goaltender is in that zone. And Marty went save for save with him for 2 periods.
Right.
Like, really solid scoring chances on both sides, and both goalies were to the task until, again, an unsung kind of guy in Dan Girardi scores what ultimately turns out to be the game-winning goal. And Girardi's done that a couple of times. He's not an offensive guy by any stretch. He's a shot blocker. He absorbs hits. I said the guy's bones of stone because he's unbreakable. and people thought when I said that, it's like, you just called him Stonehands. I said, no, I didn't. I called him Bones of Stone because that's what he is. The guy blocks shots. He took a hit from behind that I think just about every player in the league would have been out for the rest of the series and potentially the playoffs. Got right back up, played the next shift.
Yeah.
He's been a rock on defense. He has been a timely goal scorer because he's not known for that. He's got 3 goals during these playoffs? Timely ones, though.
Right.
And he among top 10, he's in the top 10 point leaders during these playoffs. And granted, they went to quadruple overtime, triple overtime, and he's averaged 27 minutes a game during the playoffs. My hat's off to the guy because he's a big reason why the Rangers are where they are. Lundqvist, without question, number 1 right now. If you're talking Conn Smythe candidates from that team, but I don't want to get too into it because it's not the Cup yet.
Right.
And New Jersey is just 1 game behind, and they have another game at the Prudential Center. And New Jersey's playing great hockey. They just ran into some guy who has 3 names: Henrik, Hank, and Henry. And they call him the King because he reigns, man.
That's true. And, we'll have to see the next game. Maybe Marty Brodeur, because he's up to the task. Maybe it's his turn to get a shutout in Game 4 on Monday night, But Marty's enjoying a nice renaissance to his career right now.
40 years old. The guy came into the Philadelphia series. You and I counted him out. Everyone pretty much counted New Jersey out. And what happened? New Jersey played a great mix of offense and poise, and they countered everything Philly had. And you know, I spoke to Justin Goldman over at the Goalie Guild. I tweeted him about Brizgalov. He can't hang the series on Brizgalov. He said, we have to steal at least one game. I mean, Brizgalov is not Lundqvist, but
right.
Brizgalov played great. Lundqvist is just playing on another level right now. It's a treat to watch because he hasn't let up a softie. He's kept his team in the game from whistle to whistle. Everything he's doing is perfect. Everything. And you know what? For all intents and purposes, besides the own goal, which is a bit of a fluke, sometimes, you know, what was it in Game 2, Marty let up an own goal. It was a puck that went wide. He overextended the butterfly to make the save, went off his skate and in the net.
Yeah.
Lousy goal. No one likes letting those in. Not that I needed to put that disclaimer on there. But, yeah, everybody loves letting in an own goal. Of course, put it on a poster. But you know, he's got enough poise to stay in the game, and it didn't bother him at all. So that's Marty Brodeur for you. And right now, like you said, renaissance. It's great to see. And his team is playing amazing. Like the board just said, we just need to score on these opportunities. Last game, he counted 2 breakaways, although they weren't clear-cut breakaways. But Lundqvist absolutely robbed Kovalchuk. Absolutely robbed him. 2 2-on-1s, quality scoring chances. Parise puts one up high. What does Lundqvist do? Lundqvist doesn't drop right away, reads the shot pretty well, and sure, it went off the shaft of his stick, but he was standing tall. Makes a beautiful save.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that is a great series.
What more can you ask for? Yeah, what more can you ask for in this playoffs? It's a great system in New Jersey. It's not just defense; it's solid offense right now. Yet there's some guy with 3 names who plays for the 3 Kroners. And if you don't get that reference, by the way, folks, Sweden has 3 crowns on their chest, and that's what I'm referring to. And Lundqvist, obviously, being the king of Sweden.
He plays for the one in the middle.
I'm going too far. Am I reaching too far, Charles?
You are. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's kind of like your mouth is falling down the stairs here. I don't know, man.
Well, at least it fell gently. At least I caught it.
And you know what? When I look at the series, though, you got, really what's a close series, even though if someone were to take a look at it, look at the games, 2-3-0 shutouts by the Rangers. They've outscored the Devils 8-3. That would appear to be, on paper, for one who wasn't necessarily watching and analyzing every game, looks like the Rangers have complete control of the series, but not necessarily the case. No, because the way New Jersey is playing solid offense. They're just running into Lundqvist. Right.
And that's what every team, by the way, has said thus far. We ran into Lundqvist. It's sort of like, when you're walking down the street and you see a friend and they're all kind of mopey and everything. It's like, yeah, I ran into Lundqvist. Oh, okay, you're having that kind of day. Sorry, I'll leave you alone.
Hey, that was a good one.
You were having a great day until you ran into him.
Yeah. There you go. You know what? Let's talk about a little bit of something here because we did break down the series last week. I had picked the Devils to win this series, but the Looney picked the Rangers, I believe. Is that correct?
No, Looney picked the Devils.
Looney picked the Devils. Okay.
I do believe the Looney picked the Devils.
Yes. Okay. All right. So
Looney did pick the Devils, and if you missed last week's show, by the way, folks, the Looney is now my ultimate Canadian celebrity. It picked the series to go Devils, and it also picked the LA Kings to beat the Phoenix Coyotes. And if you don't know what a Looney is, it's our dollar coin up here because there is a loon on one side of it. We call it a loony.
Only in Canada.
Only in Canada.
All right. You know what? Let's talk about something a little bit a tad bit unpleasant. I understand that, you and Bettman have not done tequila shots together in a while, and you and Donald Fehr, I believe, have never met. But you know what? These guys, even though no one's talking about it yet, the CBA expires this summer. They haven't gotten in the room together. If you were to ask Bettman now, I'm sure I know exactly what he would say. He would say, we've had some terrific Stanley Cup playoff hockey, and this is the best time of the year. So I think it would be doing it a disservice, an injustice to these 4 teams left if we were to talk about something that has not even happened yet and take away from all of the glory of these Stanley Cup playoffs. So that's something that's happening this summer, so we don't really need to even talk about that. First, we need to figure out who our champion is going to be. That's a Bettman
lawyer
answer.
For you. That's the lawyer in Bettman. He's gonna steer the attention away from what ultimately is kind of bigger than the playoffs. I mean, you don't want to say that, but like some people will say Easter is in fact bigger than Christmas.
Right.
We're talking about a great big Easter egg right now that nobody's been able to find. And I think it's kind of sad because, honestly, there have been a couple of analysts who have hinted at, hey, the CBA is up, but we'll talk about the Cup. And I'm glad you bring it up because this is huge. Salaries were supposed to be kept in check, and then we saw loopholes in the CBA being exposed by guys getting 10, 12-year contracts that would go well beyond their best years. But monetarily, the cap hit was more towards the front-end loaded, and then they'd get paid something like $900,000 when they're 42 years old and probably not playing.
Yeah.
So there were some things in the CBA that have been exposed, and the Kovalchuk controversy of a couple years ago now is still ringing in a lot of ears. You have a terrible scenario right now where there hasn't been any negotiation. And you would have liked to think that knowing this is when it will happen, this year, that this would be priority one from day one of this season, that it would be an ongoing matter, that by, let's say, February, you would have loved to have heard Donald Fehr sitting down with Gary Bettman at a press conference saying, we've worked everything out. Because It's not as if the Stanley Cup playoffs are an indicator of the value of your organization ultimately. I mean, ratings-wise, it's saying a lot because it's doing well on NBC. But in terms of revenue, the players don't get paid for the playoffs. The teams make the money, sure, I get that.
Exactly.
But you have to look at the more important scheme of things. You got to look at the whole painting instead of just one minutia of grass in it. You got to look at the whole painting here, and it's more important. The league is this important, especially right now, where there is huge interest in the U.S. It's proved that most of the season that viewership is up, attendance is good, except in Phoenix until it mattered. Sorry, that's my poke. That's my poke at Phoenix. Come on, folks. Come on, that's a fair comment right there.
This has a bad feel to it because I'm getting the same feeling that I did in 1994. Yeah, I've been watching hockey that long and beyond. 1994, when the Rangers were on their run, and you had this whole thing looming again. And it's the same thing. Ratings were peaking. The NHL, they had that cover on Sports Illustrated, why the NHL is hot and the NBA is not. And you have the same type of a thing here, building up to this crescendo, and then they went dark and really never recovered from that. And you got the same scenario here. Now, one thing I've heard is when they go to negotiate, it's like Donald Fehr is going to say on the players' behalf, they made a lot of concessions last time, which, cutting the salaries almost in half. And now, so how are the owners going to come to them and say, hey, you know what, we need more cuts because we still can't make any money?
Yeah, it's going to be tough considering that there was a hard cap put in place, and the players, the big word was, we're not going to capitulate. Well, they capitulated.
Right.
They folded up and said, okay, you'll get your salary cap. And what ended up happening? Like, we're back at salary caps being at over $60 million.
Right.
Like, weren't we trying to control salaries? Yet every year the NHL is more than happy because it's attached to league revenues. I get it. But when you attach things to league revenues, it's like saying you're going to have a fixed mortgage, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, it's a variable mortgage. Sorry, you want a fixed mortgage. You want to know the certainty, and that's what Bretman was saying: cost certainty, but with a variable mortgage, because you attached it to league revenues. And if you look at what just happened with the NBA, where the players were saying we don't want to go to a 50% revenue, yet they ultimately conceded to that. Is that where the NHL is going to get to? I think the NHL just really needs to have a fixed rate. They don't need to have a variable mortgage.
Well, here's the thing,
because ultimately that's good.
What I don't get about, them circumventing the salary cap is, okay, you put these things in place to protect the owners and their revenue and make sure the league stays financially healthy. So here you are as an owner, and I come to you as one of these guys who's, manipulating the salary cap, and I say, hey, Lonnie, you know what? I figured out how you can spend $20 more million than you're supposed to. Are you supposed to be happy about that? I don't understand.
Well, and I don't either. You want this certainty. You want to make sure that things are healthy, yet your general manager is coming to you and saying, yeah, Mike Komisarek wants $5 million. Well,
right.
Okay. And the unfortunate thing is just like in real estate, because I've been making that comparison, and I know in the U.S. more so than in Canada, people have been hit really hard by that market.
Right.
But the fact remains is that once you say that House A on Lawrence Avenue, okay, pick a random street in Toronto here, Lawrence Avenue, House A sells for $9 million, right? Well, House B is going to turn around and say, well, if House A, which has 1,000 square feet less than I do, just sold for $9 million, what do you think I deserve? Once you start setting these precedents, and the owners who just, cried foul and poor, then started turning around and spending this money,
right?
You can't speak out of both sides of your mouth. Like back in the last lockout, where we lost the entire season, what was that, 2005?
Mm-hmm.
We lost the entire season. I was on the side of the owners, right? I made no bones about that.
Right.
I even protested the NHL Players Association. I was out in the streets of Toronto yelling and screaming that this was wrong. You're playing a game and you're earning a ton of money doing it. But now the players are just going along their business accordingly because the owners said, sure, we'll just throw the money at you. There has to be a point where you say no.
Right.
There has to be a point where you say to this player, I don't care how many shots you block compared to the other player. You're not worth $5 million. Okay? You're worth $3 million. Take it or leave it. But then some other Yahoo owner is going to say, what? He wouldn't sign him for $5 million? I'll sign him for $5 million.
Yeah, agreed. And that's why, the underlying thing is it's not just owners against the players, it's owners against owners. That's really the whole problem with this thing.
And they threw the wrench in their own spokes. And now that the wheels are all locked up, it's their own fault at this point. Like, now you're turning it to the fact that the owners screwed it up for themselves. They whined and complained in 2005, and now that this year has come about and that they have all these problems again, right?
Yeah.
Again. It's their fault. They're the ones who have spent the money. They're the ones who exploited the CBA. And now it's up to the Board of Governors and the GMs and the Players Association and everyone to sit down and try and pretend that they're all happy together. They're not. The players are going to say, look, we gave up a ton of stuff to you guys, and now you've turned around. You drove the salary cap up, because you wanted it attached to league revenues. I think it's something like 54% of league revenue is what they wanted.
Right.
Is what they get. So as the league makes more money, the salary cap goes up, but there's also a salary basement. You have to spend X amount of dollars. I can't remember the figure because I don't run Cap Geek. I should probably hit that up to know my facts a little bit better. But when you have that salary basement and you have that salary ceiling, you've got to have that minimum. And you've also got league revenue. You've got revenue sharing, too, for the lower-tiered teams.
Yep.
It's so complex.
Definitely
It's such a complex issue.
It's complex, and we are out of time. We're out of time.
We'll have
I
to
got to
save
get
it
ready
for
to
another
go.
show, huh?
Well, there's I got to get to downtown L.A. for what I think will be the clinching Game 4 with L.A. and Phoenix, and there's some huge, there's a huge bike race going on, Amgen bike races going on, so there's going to be streets blocked off, and it's going to be a zoo down there, so I got to get my stuff ready, and, going to be doing a live broadcast after the game also, another one of my From the Arena broadcasts live on Ustream, so about 20 minutes after the game ends. You can tune in for some more analysis, everybody who might be listening right now.
Yeah, you better tune in.
Okay. All right, so Lonnie, anything
Tune in
else?
after the game for Charles. Get the good.
I'll have variable guests from the local media on with me. They'll just kind of be cycling in and out and giving their take on it because, hey, this is the first time the Kings will have made the Western Conference Final since 1993. Hopefully that is today. Don't want to count Phoenix out just yet, though.
I'll bring the brooms just in case, because you don't want to be there without having the right prop for the party.
There you go. All right, Lonnie. So any final words there from Hockey 54?
Final words is enjoy the Stanley Cup, Miss folks, because it's the most wonderful time of the year. And in L.A., it could be snowing today because, hey, they could be raising the Campbell Conference Trophy.
Yes.
As celebrating their win to represent the Western Conference.
And the question is, of course, will they touch it?
Will they touch it? Yes. Always the question.
Yes.
Always the question at hand.
All right, so
hardware in the house in LA tonight. Make sure that you stick around at the Staples Center, folks, because it's a beautiful trophy.
There you go, and that's Lonnie Schwartz of Hockey54.com. Follow him on Twitter at @theschwartz54. You can follow yours truly on Twitter at @theinsidesports. So everybody, thank you for joining us. This has been an Inside Sports production of Talkin Hockey, and we will see you again next week when we will be breaking down the Stanley Cup Final. Thank you.